خنفضان مفيوت نمشيذي نبيبنما ثواب ونوت أمين نفضي نامضاتي. We are going to continue discussion of the Coptic language, and now we are concentrating on the table that shows the history of different aspects. So if we can look at this graph here, we'll find that the first part of the graph is at the timeline, and it starts about 3000 BC until the present time, which is a little bit after the year 2000. The second column here is the political system in Egypt. And as we can see, the yellow part of the column here denotes the independent Egypt, the independent Egyptian government. And then after that, the occupation by the Greeks, then the Romans, then the Muslim Arabs. So in the period when Egypt was independent, we have, as you know, 30 dynasties divided into the Old Kingdom, Middle Kingdom, New Kingdom, and all other areas when Egypt was weak. But here in general, this is the independent Egypt, and then the Greek period, the Roman period, the Muslim Arab period. The next column is the religion. In the first part, in yellow also, you'll find all kinds of the religions of old Egypt, different gods, but in general, the Egyptian religion was one of high standard religion. It did not go into debased thing like some other cultures. And they believed in many things that we believe in. They believe in the resurrection. They believe in that the soul of people, the spirit, is eternal spirit. And they believe in, after that, we are going to come back to life. The body will be raised. And as we see, immediately after Christ's time, St. Mark came to Egypt between the years 40 to 50, in that range. And the Christian community started gradually until in about 300 years, a little bit more than that, Egypt was 100% Christian. And they stayed this way until the 7th century when the Muslim Arabs came to Egypt. And it took some time until an increased number of people became Muslims for different reasons. And right now, around the 11th century, Egypt was about 50% Muslims, 50% Christians. But right now, we are about 15% and 85% Muslim. So this, you can see this time period when Christianity was the religion of Egypt. It took a long time. And we have a lot of monasteries, churches, filling the whole Egypt and the Egyptian deserts with these monasteries. The next column is the language that is spoken in Egypt. And as you can see, the Egyptians spoke Egyptians for thousands of years. Well, the language changed a little bit by time. And this is a natural thing. It's like any other language. For example, in English, you'll find that the language 300 years ago was a little bit different. This at the times of Shakespeare, and instead of saying you are, they say thou art, and so on, but still English. Although the change in the Egyptian language was not that fast. And throughout this period, it is essentially Egyptian, whether we call it Old Egyptian, Middle Egyptian, or more recently the Coptic Egyptian, but it's all the Egyptian language. The Arabic language started to spread a little bit in the 1st and 2nd century after the Arabs came into Egypt, gradually, until in the North Egypt, in the area of the Delta, people stopped speaking Coptic around the 11th century, but in South Egypt, the Egyptian or Coptic language stayed there until the 17th century. So the Arabic state, the Arabic language was established 100% by about the 17th century. The next column is the language of the liturgy. And the language of the liturgy, it started after Christianity came into Egypt. Before that, there was no liturgy. But when Christianity came into Egypt, the liturgy was established. Initially, as you know, since St. Mark was not Egyptian, he didn't know any Coptic. So he preached in Greek, and he brought the liturgy in the Greek language. But gradually after that, people wanted to translate it until the translation that resulted in the present day liturgy that we have, where they did not replace it completely with Coptic. They kept about 15% of the hymns in Greek, and this was because in Alexandria there was a big community, about 40% of the city, who were foreigners who did not speak any Coptic. And because of that, if we translated the liturgy completely into Coptic, these people would feel alienated, and they may have established another Greek church or something. That's why the church wanted to keep them as members of our church, and they kept especially some of the congregational hymns and the deacons' hymns. They kept some of them in Greek, so the net result was 85% of the liturgy was Coptic and 15% was Greek, and this is the mixture that we still have until today. And with the spread of the Arabic language, the liturgy in the church was kept in Coptic until the 19th century, when they started introducing the Arabic into the liturgy. And you can notice that although for this long time between the 11th century and 19th century, people spoke Arabic, especially people of North Egypt and the Delta, but the liturgy was in pure Coptic. The only thing which was done in Arabic was the sermon, but the liturgy itself was pure Coptic until the 19th century, when they introduced the Arabic gradually. So right now, maybe the liturgy is about 70% Arabic, 25% Coptic. But as I said, this is a new addition starting around the 19th century. The last column here, which I want to point out, this is the timeline of the pyramids. It shows when the Egyptian pyramids were built, which was 2600 BC, as compared to the Mexican pyramids that everybody knows about, and these were built 500 AD. In other words, there's a period of time between the two of 3,000 years until the Mexican pyramids were built. Another thing here, you can see where Columbus discovered America and the establishment of the United States as an independent republic, a independent country. This was in 1776. So from here to here is the age of the United States as a country, and from this point to this point here is the age of the Egyptian culture. Here in this slide, this is the same thing, but I enlarge this part so you can see it more clearly. So you can see here, I put some dots in this areas here. This is when the Arabs came into Egypt. At this point here is when about 50% of the people spoke Arabic and 50% spoke Coptic. And here at this point here is when the Arabic started to be introduced into the Coptic liturgy gradually. But as I said, there's a long period of time, close to 1,000 years, when the people were not speaking Coptic, but the liturgy was in Coptic all the time. We will stop at this point in this part, and we will meet in another part. And Ugai Namedati till next time.